Hola amigos, Dr. Buena. Today I'm going to give you 10 tips on how you can be successful on the AP Spanish Language and Culture exam. Vamos a empezar. Alright, we'll start with tip number 10 and work our way to the most important tip to help you be successful on the AP Spanish Language and Culture exam. Alright, the first one is don't get too stressed out about the grammar, the accents, the spelling. That stuff is important, but your number one goal should be to communicate. Communicate what you know, and that's what they try to prompt you to do for the speaking and the writing parts of the exam. So just communicate. Communication is the goal. Share what you know. After you've communicated and written down things that you wanted to say and said things, then go back and look for ways to improve on your grammar or accents or spelling. And if you do make a mistake speaking, then you can just stop and then correct yourself, and the mistake won't count against you. So just share what you know, be confident. All right, up next we want to outline. Did I mention an outline? So what you want to do before you start writing your essay or start any of your presentations is first create an outline, because the instructions say that you should present a well-organized response. And so the only way you can do that is to first create an outline. And if you refer back to some other lessons, I provide you outlines on how to do that specifically with the different free response portions. All right, tip number 8, make sure that you cite your sources. So this is referring back to the persuasive essay. There's 3 sources, and the instructions say you need to provide citation for each of those 3. So there's no set way to cite. There's not MLA or Chicago style or APA or MLA. They don't require that. So you just need to refer back to those sources, and you can call them fuente numero uno, segunda fuente, or la tercera fuente, and then you can put in quotation marks, citation that supports your argument, what you're trying to say. All right, tip number 7, know thy exam. Memorize. Memorize the instructions for each section of the exam. So I can't emphasize this more. I underlined the word memorize, I highlighted it, I bolded it, I italicized it. You need to be familiar with the instructions of the exam before you ever take the exam. So that's going to do a couple things. That's going to free up some time on the exam. You're not going to be reading the instructions because you've already done that, and this is an exam where you're very pressed for time. So getting an extra minute or 2 of time to express yourself and to write your response or provide your response is going to make all the difference. And also it's going to prevent any confusion on the exam so that you're completing the tasks that you need to complete. And the only way you can do that is if you memorize the instructions for each section of the exam. So you should be practicing the exam to do that. All right, up next, as you're studying for the exam, you want to create a vocabulary list of words that you're learning, words you don't recognize, words that you see over and over again. And anyways, in the last lesson, I created a 50-word list of words that I think are important after reviewing a released examination. But you should be doing the same thing as well. And on my list, I also created a Quizlet that you could help practice. And you could do the same thing for your vocab list, create a Quizlet or some other way, flashcards, some other way for you to study those new words. All right, then there's going to be a portion on the email where you need to have a formal opening and a formal closure to that letter. And so just by knowing these 2 words can be really important to get you a couple of points. So querido or querida means dear. That'd be a good way to start a formal letter, and you should match it up with the gender of the person that you're talking to. And then you can close that formal letter with atentamente, which is sincerely. Tip number 4, you want to take notes while you listen. This is very important because you'll listen to the sources 2 times, and then once they're done playing, they're done playing. And especially for the portion in the persuasive essay, you're going to have to refer back to that source and cite that source. How are you going to do that if you don't have any notes written down? That would be very difficult. So make sure that you're writing down as many notes as you can while you're listening. And though don't score those notes, you can just do that in a blank section, but very important, take notes while you listen. All right, and tip number 3, our multiple choice question strategy. So most people are going to do the reading and then answer the questions. Make sense? Well, not if you are pressed for time. The most efficient thing that you can do is, 1, read the questions first. That way, in step 2, when you're doing the reading, you know what you're looking for. And then in step 3, that's going to allow you to more effectively answer those questions. So step number 1, read the questions first before you do the reading. That's going to help you save time and be more efficient. All right, let's keep moving on here. Tip number 2. Okay, there's certain portions of the exam where you need to use the formal form of address, and it may be the usted or the ustedes forms. And the AP test does this purposely because most often in everyday conversation you're using the to form, and they want to see if you know how to use the usted or the ustedes form if you're being polite or addressing a group of people. So here's a couple quick ways to do that. So if I've got to you and it's after a pronoun, typically we're going to say a ti. But in the usted and ustedes form, we're going to change it to a usted and a ustedes. Okay, the next one, instead of another way to say your, that is formal, instead of saying tu or tus, it's going to be su or sus. And so su and sus can either work for usted or ustedes. And what the su and sus is referring to is the object that has ownership over. Is that singular or is that plural? Okay, and our last one here, it's an object pronoun. So te is going to change to le or les when I want to say you or you all, and I want to be polite and formal. All right, and our last tip, let's take a look here. All right, tip number 1, be sure to answer every question. So why wouldn't you? If you get pressed for time, you need to start filling out those bubbles as quickly as possible because there's no penalty for a wrong answer. So even if you're not sure and there's 4 multiple choice responses and you take a guess, you've got a 25% chance of getting that right and building the points that you need to start earning college credit. Same thing for the speaking portion. In some speaking portions, there's a set of 20-second prompts. You need to speak for the whole time. Even if you miss what the person said, you need to just speak and try to think maybe what they said or try to respond as much as you think that they said and respond for the full 20 seconds. And then same thing for your cultural comparison. You need to speak for the full 2 minutes until you hear that beep. Do not stop speaking. If you do, you're going to get points docked. Same thing for the free response sections. Make sure that you're writing an answer, even if you're completely lost. Hopefully you're not after you practice so much, but you need to write something, and that's going to give you a point just for having made a valid attempt. Never write a response in English. That's a score of 0. Never write I don't know or yo no sé. That's a score of a 0. But if you give at least a valid attempt, you do get 1 point. All right, those are my 10 tips for you, and this concludes the lesson 8. And so if this is the first one that you've seen, go back and check the other ones. So lessons 1 through 8, if you follow all through them, hopefully it's going to help you be successful on the AP Spanish Language and Cultural exam. All right, remember that subscribing to my YouTube channel, Learning Spanish with Dr. L, gives you free access to all of my videos. Gracias por mirar y buena suerte en el examen de AP. Ciao.